I'm now going to move on to the other engines, and I know a lot of you right now are going to be like, well, where was Red Eyes? Where was Red Eyes Fusion? Where was Verte? Where was Dark Magician Girl? Well, this is one of the engines that I'm actually considering talking about. So, Verte Anaconda, Red Eyes Fusion, Dark Magician Girl, and Red Eyes. Now, I've had this conversation before with a couple of people. The way I see it is, if Verte Anaconda goes, is there any need to run Red Eyes Fusion and Red Eyes Black Dragon? To me, I'm not a fan unless I'm building a control version of going Turbo Red Eyes Fusion with Red Eyes Insight, sit onto a Dragoon, set up back row and protect. To me, Red Eyes Fusion becomes more of a brick, specifically when we're looking at stuff like Illusion of Chaos that can lead me to my starters of Magician Rod, that can also lead me to my extenders of Magician Souls. There are kind of arguments to kind of say, well, now all we're missing is a decent Link 2 to replace Verte Anaconda, and this engine becomes null and void. So that's kind of the way I would see it, is if we lose Verte, to me, there is no reason of playing a Red Eyes Fusion, because they're saying, well, you now need to hard open a Red Eyes Fusion in order to play it, which then means I've also got just as much chance to open up Red Eyes Fusion as I do have Red Eyes Black Dragon, unless I maximize Red Eyes Fusion, which I'm then kind of going, well, then I might as well take out a couple of my combo pieces. I might as well rely on more back row. There's no need for me to have Diviner of the Herald. And I kind of want to just go, right, set free, activate Red Eyes Fusion, hope I don't get ashed, make Goon, and then hold one card back and pass. So to me, it's not really worth doing if it doesn't survive. If it does survive, then again, very easy. 100% in it goes, no arguments whatsoever. It's so good that you can build your boards and then follow up with one, and now, because of the Timaeus Dragon, possibly 2 Dragoons. Now, the reason I've got Dark Magician Girl up here as well is that she's a little bit, again, questionable in the sense. Me, personally, before the whole Red Eyes Fusion, Verte, and constantly putting her to the graveyard for 2 draws, there was no real reason to be playing her. Now, with this particular build, the other reason that you would want to play her is Magician Souls with a Diviner of the Herald actually gives you access to a Soulkin and Crystal Wing play, which is really nice and does mean that you will need to run Dark Magician Girl. So to me, I might consider playing that. The only issue is, again, Soul Servant would still only become a draw 1 unless I draw into a Dark Magician or find some way of getting Dark Magician from my hand or deck to the graveyard. Keeping in mind that without Verte, it is not quite consistently easily doable until March/April when we get the Albaz structure deck. So Dark Magician Girl is questionable as to whether or not I value the ability of getting into a Soulkin Crystal Wing above the 1 additional brick in the deck or not. If I didn't want to worry about that, I could arguably look into Apprentice Illusion. And by going with something like Apprentice Illusion, it's just a little bit more consistent that if I open her up, she's not as much of a brick as Dark Magician Girl is. But on the other side, Illusion of Chaos can put Dark Magician Girl back to the top of the deck. So it's definitely something to consider and definitely something to look into. That if you're trying to minimize bricks, add in more hand traps, add in more consistency cards, these are cards that post-banish you could arguably consider getting rid of. Moving on to the second engine, and this one we'll talk about is the Sky Striker package. Now, the Sky Striker package right now, again, if Verte goes, is going to be a question mark. So at the moment, in my particular builds, we've got the 1 Drones, the 1 Engage, and the 1 Eagle Booster, alongside the 1 Kana and the 1 Kagari in the extra deck. Now, as they stand, if you add in Link Spider to your extra deck, this is a 1-card Verte into Dragoon, which is very important, because the idea would be you activate drones, turn it into Kagari, Kagari adds back drones, activate the drones, turn Kagari into Kana, then turn the drones into Link Spider, put those 2 together, go into Verte, and then straight away, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. That is your Dragoon. So it is very good in that sense. Plus Kana, if you turn Kagari into Kana earlier before you activate drones, can be a match winner during time to give you that additional 100 life points. On the back of that, they are spell cards as well, so they can be ditched off of your Soul Servant for Magician Souls for additional draws. It is something to highly consider. However, on the flip side, without Verte, it does rely on you having an additional extender in the form of Magician Souls and the ability to get to a spell to the graveyard ideally the best scenario would be a striker package plus your Magician's Rod, because that will give you an additional spell card and will give you a spellcaster on the board, so you can go straight into a Selene, and that then leads you into your Avramax or your Appaloosa, depending on which way you want to go. To me, the 2 spaces in the extra deck and the 3 or 2 spells, depending on which way you want to go about it, would not be worth it if we do not have Verte Anaconda, but it is an engine that a lot of people are currently playing, and post-ban list, my thoughts on this may or may not change. I would still arguably be using it with the new stuff as well, as long as Verte survives. Moving on to the next mini engine, and basically this becomes a starter for the deck. And the reason this becomes a starter for the deck is this will instigate your Illusion of Chaos plays. So triple Diviner of the Herald alongside a single Herald of Art Light, an Ultimate Zolkin, and a Crystal Wing. Now, the reason, again, that this engine becomes so much more important, and shout out to Loza on YouTube for this, is the fact that Diviner becomes a normal summon that gives you 2 Illusion of Chaos. So like I said with the Magician's Rod, it is a normal summon starter that will get you to the monster version of your deck, whereas Rod will give you to your spells version of your deck. The idea behind this is normal summon Diviner, send Herald of Art Light. It can arguably send Natis if you want to be a bit more aggressive, but the idea would be you send Herald of Art Light to give you your Illusion of Chaos. You want to be sending Natis going second or as a later game state in order to still make Diviner a level 6 tuner. That becomes very relevant because once you have sent Herald such that your Illusion of Chaos then becomes Magician's Souls. Your Magician's Souls would then become Dark Magician Girl. You can then sync Dark Magician Girl as it is a level 6 with your Diviner, which is now a level 6 tuner, to make your Ultimate Zolkin. Then all you need is a card that can be set to activate your Zolkin to summon down your Crystal Wing. Now, if you add into that any form of extender, whether that be an additional Apprentice Illusion, whether that be a Tamias Dragon, you can then ultimately produce a Verte Anaconda off the back of that, and that then becomes a Crystal Wing plus a Dragoon. But again, you need to consider whether Verte is still going to be around or not. So that is the Diviner package. Moving on to probably the most successful package, in my opinion, and that is the Dogmatica package. Now, with this, I am personally playing 1 Ecclesia, 1 Fleur de Ris, and 1 Maximus, alongside, of course, triple Nadir Servant and the 1 Shaddoll Schism. Now, why is this, in my opinion, the best engine? Well, pure factor is, no matter what the remaining 4 cards in my hand are, I can burn through so many hand traps. Now, the Striker package is also very, very good at burning through hand traps because Kagari will eat up a Veiler or an Imperm and maybe even a Gamma. Activating something like Engage can very easily eat up a Ash Blossom as well. So the idea is that this Nadir Servant wants to be one of the last cards you play, or Ecclesia is one of the last cards you will special summon. By doing that, it does mean that your entire hand has already baited out Imperms, Veilers, Ashes, you name it, and from that one particular card in Nadir Servant, you're still able to set up a Window Lock, and you can then replenish your hand, whether it be a Fusions card, or whether it also be a Fleur de Ris, which can then become a non-target negate. So it's very, very important in that. And what I mean by Nadir being a 1-card combo, it does eat out your extra deck a little bit more for the fact that you do need to play Construct, but it means that the discard off of your App Clone is not a loss at all. So this is the whole reason of why we're playing Maximus. Arguably, if you wanted to go more control, you would still play this version, but you would also add in stuff like Dogmatica Punishment and more Natisses. So moving on to the extra deck changes that will be accompanying the Dogmatica package, which is why this becomes a little bit of an issue, is because in theory, the extra deck will actually eat up 6 additional spots. So you've got your Winder, your App Clone, and your Construct, alongside a Predaplant Chimera Felesia, Titaniclad, and Elder Entity Natis. Now, why does it take up so many spots? Well, I'll explain it to you right now. So the idea behind this is at the base minimum, you will need Winder and App Clone. The reason you need Construct is to make sure that the discard of Schism does not affect anything else in your hand. The idea would be that you discard the Schism, you summon out Maximus by banishing the App Clone, you then send a Construct, and you would send either a Titaniclad and a Chimera Felesia. You would then get the Schism back off of Construct, and then you will get a search in the end phase for Titaniclad, or you would get a search in your opponent's standby phase for Magicalized Fusion, or Red Eyes Fusion. Possibly even Fusion Destiny if you do consider that package post-ban list. The Natis would be in here as an aggressive send off Nadir Servant, but can also be an aggressive send off of your Diviner of Herald. So you can see that it takes up a lot of space in the extra deck, and that is one thing that is the massive drawback for the Dogmatica package. But I feel that there are so many times that if I can build my board, specifically without Verte Anaconda, I don't need to worry about clashing my Dogmaticas with the rest of my deck. I can produce a Dragoon, I can then protect all of my Nadir plays, and still end up on a Schism, meaning that if my opponent tries to pop the Schism, I can actually protect it with Dragoon, or I can also control when I put a Winder down. So it means my opponent is forced to hold back their Dark Ruler no more, they are forced to hold back their Imperms, and they're forced to hold back any form of negation that they are going to try and put on to Winder. And that's pretty much it for the extra deck stuff. The last bits that I will be going through are staples, which to me is Preparation of Rites. You're either going to be playing this at 2 or 3. I think 2 is enough for the pure fact that it's not a once per turn. You could put it at 3 if you wanted to, because then any spare copies can be sent with your Magician's Souls, and any multiple copies of Illusion of Chaos can go back to the top of the deck and reshuffled. Then, of course, you've got the one Magical Eyes Fusion. Again, post-Verte or even during Verte, Magical Eyes Fusion is very good because it's one of the ones that if you do open up Red Eyes Fusion and you still want to combo and make different boards, you can still do, and then Verte will send Magical Eyes and banish and go from there. The final card for me is a personal tech that I'm playing around with again, is the True Name and Obelisk. Obelisk is a brick, you don't need to play it, but the idea behind this would be the fact that we've now got 3 Soul Servant, 2 Magician Circles, and then 3 Illusion of Chaos. That is a total of 8 cards a stack in my deck for me, that I could activate something like the True Name and add any card from my deck to my hand. So imagine this, activate Dark Magical Circle. I see Eternal Soul, I see Obelisk, and I see Nadir Servant. Well, I just put the Nadir Servant to the top of the deck, activate the True Name, call Nadir Servant, add the Nadir Servant off the True Name, and then special Obelisk from the deck. Gives me an additional monster on the board that can then lead me to either higher Link 2s or Link 3 plays, ultimately leading me into a Link 4 play, and then I can start making Nadir plays. Off the back of that as well, the reason we go with Obelisk over anything else is it is a base 4k, it will still be able to do damage, and it has its own effect to nuke your opponent's board should you need it. So it is something to consider. I highly like the idea of the True Name, but again, a lot of people argue that it does become a brick, and it can do if you don't get to any of your 8 copies that will stack your deck for you. Keeping in mind that you're going to turn that 8 copies, in theory, into at least another, I believe, 11, because you add in 3 Diviners, and then you'd add in, I think it'd be more than that, I think it's 13, because you add in 3 Diviners, and then you add in 2 Preparation of Rites to get to your Illusion of Chaos. So you've actually got even more consistent ways of being able to stack your deck. And that is it. So these are my personal kind of bits that I'm playing around with right now. There are other elements that I'm looking into. I'm looking at different kind of ways of playing this deck, and I am constantly playing without Verte Anaconda, because one of the biggest stress relievers with not having to worry about Verte Anaconda is I don't need to worry about, okay, do I go Verte play or do I go Nadir play? I can just be like, I can go whatever play I want and then end on the Nadir. So it is crazy consistent. I'm really, really enjoying messing around with the deck right now. And I can't wait till we get the physical cards and post-ban list. So there's still so much for this deck to do over this upcoming year, whether it be the new support in Battle of Chaos or whether it be additional support that we could insequently get with the Albaz structure deck, which then means that you replace Red Eyes Fusion with Branded Fusion and you place Red Eyes with Albaz, and then you can just make your plays from there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. I hope you found this video helpful. But as absolutely always, guys, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.